Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And man, oh man, what a great day to be a Vol. The Vols celebrating a win, 33-27 over Kentucky last night. And we are super excited because tonight we get a visit from the one and the only, the man who has covered Tennessee football for a long time, spent years on the media beat, a man who helps produce this magazine behind me, Football Time. That's actually last year's. I got this year sitting right over there. I need to get it up here. And probably the coolest thing of all, most recently, the Iron Man himself, Reed Carringer. Reed, welcome, buddy.
Man, that the Iron Man was really tough, but it wasn't as tough as covering Tennessee during the Butch Jones years.
Well, the fact that you're still alive, I got all the respect in the world for you, man. Like, that is incredible that you did the Iron Man. He finished it 70.3 miles, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah. Ended up being, a little bit longer than that because of course and stuff, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Anything over 3 and I'm tapping out. So, I mean, that's very impressive. Very impressive. Well, so everybody who watches us knows that every time we have a recap show, we already got people chiming in. That is awesome. That's fantastic. We would love for you all to let us know your takeaways in the comments because we do 3 things. We do our takeaways from the game, and then we talk about our player of the game and our play of the game. And so please let us know your takeaways. I already got some folks chiming in. That's really cool. We're going to get to those for sure. But Reed, we want to start with you. Let us know, what did you take away from this game?
So, one of the biggest things that I took away from the game is I think you see Tennessee has an identity now. And that identity is they're going to run the ball on you. It doesn't matter who you are. They're going to bludgeon you on the ground. And then the other side of that is they're going to stop the run. And that's not something we've necessarily seen from a Tennessee. It's kind of a little bit of old school football, really. Dominate the line of scrimmage, run it up and down the field, stop the run. Tennessee has only been out-rushed in one game this year. That was at Florida, which was it's always an anomaly anyway. It's just that game. So they shredded one of the top rushing defenses in Texas A&M a couple of weeks ago, and then shredded what was the number 2 rushing defense in the SEC, Kentucky, yesterday. They're now the number 6 rushing defense in the SEC after the Vols ran for a bazillion yards on them. So I think that's it. You're seeing Tennessee's identity. It's a lot different than last year. It's not a quick tempo, air it out, launch it down the field, score 50 points. It's we're going to run the ball at you. You're not going to be able to stop us. And then we're going to sell out and stop the run and dare you to beat us through the air.
Absolutely. How nice is it that we can say that Tennessee is stopping the run? It's been a while since we could say that. That's a very nice thing to say.
They're holding. I mean, it's pretty much holding everyone to under 100 yards, and you're going to win a lot of games in big boy football doing that. When you're holding teams under 100 yards rushing, and then when you're rushing for 200 plus on top of that, you're going to win a lot of football games, even if it's not pretty. The Vols are still sitting pretty and still have a shot. To get to Atlanta.
That's exactly right. Rustin, what did you take away from that game?
I was going to say a lot of the same things Reed just did. 47 carries for 253 yards against 24 carries for 72 yards. You don't lose many games when the numbers look like that. And, everybody talks about Ray Davis, 16 carries for 42 yards. We effectively eliminated him from the game.
He only averaged 2.6 yards per carry. Stat of the game right there. We held him to 42 yards.
Yeah. One of our biggest concerns going into it was Elijah Herring. Liam Cohen runs a lot of misdirection, a lot of unbalanced line, funky formations, shifts. And Elijah Herring has had a propensity to not align correctly for several weeks in a row now. And he figured it out. He did his job. He was second on the team in tackles with 8. Was always where he needed to be, never gave up a big play. So, kudos to him as well. I thought he did a good job getting into his spot. And he was the one we were concerned about, and he did a great job.
So a couple of my takeaways. First of all, that was the Dante Thornton we've been waiting to see for several weeks now. That was nice to see. Our running back room is crazy good. They are elite. And what's incredible is we got 3 other guys sitting on the sideline right now who can step right in, and there's not that much of a drop off at all behind those 3 guys. What a nice luxury that is. Thrilled for Chaz Nimrod that he got his first touchdown catch of the year. That was awesome. Joe, I think that was his best game since Clemson in the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
He played extremely well. His decision making was excellent. The throws he was making were crazy. The one where he rolled out to his left and hit Dante Thornton, just directing him. You can see it in the replay. He goes like go in, and almost sidearms it just on the money, pinpoint. The throw he had on the run to Squirrel, rolling out to the opposite direction. That was beautiful. The bomb to Chaz Nimrod, right on the money. But I think my favorite throw of the whole day was just because it was so freakishly talented, was when he rolled out to his right and hit Ramel Keaton on the sideline, and it was ruled a catch. They reviewed it and then continued to rule it a catch. Holy stinking moly. That was a laser across the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the arm that, we're used to seeing. But I got 2 questions for y'all based on what we saw yesterday. First question, when was the last time that there was a really weird ending to a game and it benefited Tennessee? Can we think of maybe ever when that's happened?
Yeah, gosh, I other than like a missed field goal or something as time expires, that's pretty much it. I can't believe they actually enforced that rule, and I'm sure the Kentucky player who went down was thinking, "I'm going to get it by some time." He probably didn't know the rule, didn't know they were out of timeouts, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
But kudos to the officials for getting that right, because they didn't get a lot right yesterday, but they did get that call right. And I can't. You have the LSU Dooley debacle. You've got the Music City Bowl debacle against NC State North Carolina when they said the game is over. The refs and it wasn't over, and Tennessee ended up losing that game. You have so many late game heartbreaks that we can remember, and for once, it went Tennessee's way.
What a time to be evolved, man.
Maybe it made up for some of those missed holding calls that we all saw.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the one. Okay, of all the holding calls, there's one on Tyler Barron where you can literally see him pulling his jersey down on his shoulder pads. But the one on Warren Burrell on the sideline, holy stinking moly! I mean, that was just,
he tackled him.
Yeah, I mean, it was unreal. He had him turned around holding him, and it still didn't get called. But here's my other question for you guys. When was the last time? And this isn't just a Tennessee question. I'm genuinely curious. And so if anybody in the comments knows this as well, please let us know. When was the last time a team went 2 whole games and the opponent had 0 live ball penalties? When in the world has that ever happened in any college football game? That's my question.
I've watched a lot of football in my life. I was talking to a buddy the other day. I said, I've seen it's good and bad. I've seen so many heartbreaking losses on the road, but I've seen some fun road wins too. Just growing up, traveling, following Tennessee football. I cannot recall one game, much less 2, where the opposing team is not called for a live ball penalty in college football.
Amen, brother. Yeah. I totally agree.
It almost makes you wonder, every coach has the opportunity to turn in a notice per se to the SEC, if they have a grievance. It almost makes me wonder if Josh Heupel's turned in a few too many grievances, because every time somebody turns something in, they go talk to those officials about the grievance. And I'm starting to wonder if there's a red flag attached to Tennessee and every officiating crew knows it.
I've never seen anything like it. It's not like Tennessee's getting a beneficial home whistle either. I can't remember the exact number, but it seems like they had 12 penalties against A&M in a game they
Yeah.
ended up winning. It's not working both ways for Tennessee. It's not just a favorable home whistle, it's a anti-Tennessee whistle. And yeah, obviously Tennessee needs to be more disciplined. I think we all see that. There's some very legitimate calls that we're seeing against Tennessee, but we're not seeing the other side of that. I think that's the thing there. Tennessee needs to clean up the penalties. That's true. Also, I watched. You mentioned that one on Barron and Burrell. There's one where James Pierce came off the edge. They were throwing into where he was coming from. He jumped up to try to deflect the pass. It was kind of a quick out or quick in, and you could see his jersey pulled down, all the way down to the side. I could see it from the aerial view of the camera 40 yards away or whatever. And I know that those guys saw that if I saw that. And it affected him because it kept him from jumping up and blocking the pass. And so I don't know, but I'm with you, Rustin. I think somebody at Tennessee has done something to tick off somebody, and I don't know what you do about that.
Totally agree. So our first comment and takeaway from Tony. Welcome, Tony. Good to have you with us, buddy. Tony said, I know Wright's a really good running back, but he taps out too much. Thoughts? Now, here's my response to that. I think that this is a product of we were actually going fast in the first couple drives there. We benefit from tempo. I think last night proved that again. And what's wild is Rustin and I were talking about this during the game last night. They mentioned that we're second in FBS with time between plays. We're going that fast, and it feels like we're going slower this year than we have been, and yet we're still second in the league in
the
speed,
country.
In the country. And so I think this is a result of that first, or I think it was the first drive of the second half. Maybe they ran him like 3 or 4 straight times tempo, and dude was just tired. I mean, he's trying to drag 300-pound people trying to tackle him and stuff. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think you're right. Tennessee benefits from tempo. And also right that we're not as fast. Tennessee's not as fast as they were last year. But Wright, I would have loved to seen him get more carries yesterday. Heupel said he got banged up. If you're on the field for us at that position, playing more than 3 snaps in a row, I don't know what kind of. I don't think you can be in good enough shape to do that at that position with all the running backs have to do. And those guys run hard. I mean, I understand, Tony, what you're saying for sure, because you'd like to see him out there more. I would too. Averaged 11 yards a carry yesterday. We'd like to see him get more carries and more snaps. But those guys run hard. There weren't a ton of lanes, really, if you went back and look at that. A lot of those yards were hard-fought yards by the running back and then hitting the hole hard and dragging people, like you said, Evan. So I'm with you there. I just think it's hard in this system for guys to carry the ball 5-6 straight times.
One of the best follows on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, is a guy named Bill Martin. He's sports information director at Tennessee. And one of the things he tweeted out today was Jalen Wright, of his 700 and something yards, 413 of them are after the first contact. That's impressive. Dude is earning himself some yards for sure. Let's see. Oreo Puppy Dog, one of the best names of anybody on YouTube. Welcome, Oreo Puppy Dog. Good to have you with us. He said, you think they'll use UConn to get Joe's numbers up or spread out some reps? What y'all think?
Get his numbers up for what? I mean, he's not in a Heisman race. He's not going to win SEC quarterback of the year. So, UConn is all about depth development and player development and how many different guys can we get on the field. It's also about health development. How many guys can we keep off the field so they can recover? That's why you play
very
UConn.
Important games following UConn. Two very important games.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rustin, there too. It's how many people can Tennessee afford to not play in that game, or how many starters can play 10 snaps, or let's just not that you treat it like a bye week, but it's as close as you're going to get this time of year. And the Vols, injury bug. You saw it yesterday with the offensive line. Lost the left side of the offensive line again for good chunks of that game. Left guard didn't come back, I don't think. It looked like it was Ollie Lane in there the rest of the game. And they kept running that way, had some success, pulling the right tackle around, which seemed to open up some lanes. But they need to get healthy for sure. That's priority. I don't know what that looks like at the quarterback position. I'm still surprised, guys, that after we saw Joe's knee buckle in that game, was that 4 weeks ago, the Texas San Antonio game, that he seems like he's back to 100% now. They're utilizing his legs more. That was one thing that I had marked that I really have liked the last couple of weeks from Tennessee's offense. They've added that dimension back, the quarterback run, and there's been some ad-libbing, like you mentioned too, as well, that seems like he's got some good chemistry with the receivers. I like that. So I don't know that you don't want to sit him. You want him to get him out there, continue to build chemistry with those receivers. Looks like they've got a little momentum in the passing game right now that they didn't have a couple of weeks ago, especially after Brew went down. So I don't expect it to be drastically different than you've seen from the quarterback position and the offense thus far.
Our Uncle Dave, welcome. He said, I'm glad UT was able to control the clock with their ground game and minimize Leary's time on the field. Despite all I heard last week, he actually looked pretty good. Absolutely. We made him look really, really good. I think that's what Kentucky fans have been wanting to see all year. Tony had a similar question. He said, I know we wanted to stop the run, which we did, but we made Leary look like a Heisman contender. Pitiful. It was certainly Leary's best game of the season, no doubt about it. And like I said, I think that's what Kentucky fans have been hoping to see all year long. Let's see. Tony said Sampson needs at least 15 touches a game. He looked like a second coming of Alvin Kamara's Texas A&M game there a little bit yesterday. What do y'all think?
You would love – Wright averaged 11 yards a carry. I would love to see Wright get a little more touches than he got.
That's fair.
He's been tearing it up this year, so I'd like to see him get some more touches too. I just don't think you can go wrong with those running backs, any of them at this point. I'm so impressed with that position as a whole. I love the way Tennessee's running in between the tackles 90% of the time. These aren't stretch plays, long developing plays. They're quick hitting. Not many lanes. Those guys have to have great vision, great speed through not large lanes they're running through, and then be very decisive after that, after they get through the line and run with power. And you're seeing all those things. I see what you're saying, but Wright was 11 yards a carry. You can't bench him for Sampson at this point. I like that they spread it around, try to keep guys fresh and utilize their different skill sets.
That's a plethora of riches, isn't it?
You're gonna see him get 25 to 30 touches a game next year.
He got 21 yesterday. I'm looking at the box score, so that's right. He's close. He's close there.
Let's see, Rebecca. Welcome, Rebecca. She said, "Got that road win. Absolutely, first true road win of the season for the Vols. That was huge." Zach, welcome, Zach. He said, a great couple days to be a Tennessee fan. Vols winning football and basketball, then Titans getting a huge win today. That is very true. Basketball team beat Michigan State in an exhibition game tonight, 89-88. Dalton Kennette is all over the internet right now with his posterizing dunk of a guy. And if we have time, we might get a little bit to that at the end. They got their first preseason game, I think, on Tuesday. I could be wrong, something like that.
Yeah, it's Halloween night against Lenore Ryan.
There you go. I'm sure that'll be a barn burner. Let's see.
How would you like to be Lenore Ryan watching TV today and watching Tennessee without Santi and Zakai beat Michigan State at Michigan State?
Yep.
Tuesday sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I will throw in one word of caution. Last year, after their exhibition game with Gonzaga, in which they scored 90-something points, we were all like, we're winning the national championship. And then it didn't quite work out that way. So Definitely a positive start to the season, no doubt. Robert, great question, Robert. Good to have you. He said, "Hey, great to see you guys. Is there anything the Vols can do to stop holding on our defense? What do you guys think? What can Tennessee do to finally start getting some calls?"
Rustin, this is all you. Yeah.
Figure out who we pissed off at the SEC office and send them a nice bonus check and tell them knock it off.
Send them a gift basket. Where are
Jelly,
the turtles?
Jelly the Month Club to whoever that is. For, SEC official. That is
I like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
I mean, from a strictly tactical perspective, about the only thing they can do is start trying to run as many twist stunts as possible. So they've got guys crossing each other. If you've got guys crossing each other, then offensive linemen who are holding become more visible. But honestly, it's crazy visible right now, and nobody's
it's pretty
calling
visible.
anything.
Yep, it's already pretty visible. The only 10 you see, welcome. She said, "Been waiting on this. Other channels have worked my last night." Well, I appreciate that you joining us. That's awesome. We're glad we're here for you. Absolutely. Billy, welcome, Billy. He said they need to blitz more. What do y'all think about that from last night? Because they did not do that very often last night.
Yeah, I don't have the breakdown of the blitz rate for the game yesterday, but it did seem like they were content to stack the box, stop the run, had 8 in the box a lot of times, but then on clear passing downs, they were bringing 4 and still not covering anybody for a while. So that was concerning. I did think they adjusted that a little bit in the second half. You started seeing them bring a little bit more pressure, and the front 4 also was more effective there in the second half. I don't know if that's from Kentucky's offense maybe wearing down a little bit just against Tennessee, rotating those defensive linemen and their physicality. But I'm with you. I thought they could have blitzed more in the game, especially the way Kentucky was eating up the pass. There were a couple plays. There was one, and you guys might remember, I cannot remember. It was in the second half, and they blitzed a corner from the right side of Leary, and he threw into the blitz, which is what you're supposed to do, but they kind of were baiting him into throwing a pick in a key point in the game. And I don't know if a linebacker or a defensive back dove, and it kind of went through his arms. But that was a great call, because I think that was specifically designed to blitz him, to bait him into throwing right there, and that guy's going to be waiting there to pick that ball off. Loved that call, and it just didn't quite work out for Tennessee, although they did break up the pass.
Absolutely.
I think I'll go back to what we said Thursday and the week before and the week before that. Honestly, at this point, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Tamarion McDonald, once again, got scored on trying to play man coverage. He's a run-stopping star, strong safety, whatever you want to call it. He has no business playing man coverage. He is not capable of playing man coverage. And preseason, they told us Danico Slaughter had worked at the Star. Brandon Turnage had worked at the Star. So why on sure passing downs, when we're playing man, why are we not bringing Tamarion McDonald off the field and getting our 3 best cover guys in there, since 2 of them, we've already been told, have repped at the Star? And it makes no sense to me. If you're going to drop in coverage, or if you're going to play man free, whatever, get your best cover guys out there and get Tamarion McDonald off the field, because he's an absolute liability in coverage.
They did like to target him in some key spots. There's no doubt.
Zach is pumped that Reed's here. And he said, "Reed's back." Yeah. And he said, "Other than myself, Reed's the second best guest you had." We agree. Reed is the man. Absolutely. We love having him with us. Kelly said, "We took Kentucky's best shot. Ours was just better. Go Big Orange." Love it. Absolutely.
True.
Welcome, Kelly. Good to have you with us. Doug, good to have you with us, buddy. He said, "Hey, Vol Bros and Vol fans. It's great to be a Tennessee Vol. Go Big Orange." Absolutely. So here's what I'm going to do. I got a star on the comment where I'm leaving off for now. We did have one answer to a question I had earlier about when was the last time there was a weird ending to a game and it benefited us. Robert Duncan said Arkansas fumble in 98. I love
97.
it. 97, yeah. I love it. That's a good point. Absolutely. Let's see. So
it's been a while. It's been a while.
Absolutely. We are truly coming out of the battered Vol syndrome eras.
Even that game yesterday, it looks like the trajectory of that game in the second half. Tennessee comes out 3 and out. You think, oh no, here we go again, guys. And then Kentucky's moving the ball. They get a stop. And then it was 2nd and 19, and Tennessee came up with a big play. But it looked like yesterday that, oh no, here we go again, guys. Here it's second half Alabama repeat, and the ball's right at the ship. So credit on a tough night game environment.
Yeah, Twitter was not happy at the start of the second half. That is for sure.
I was afraid as well. Just reading I've seen that script before a few times in my day.
I totally understand that. Absolutely. Well, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead and answer our last 2 questions, and then we'll spend the remaining time that we got looking through all the comments. So, Reed, would y'all want to do play or player of the game first?
I'm going play.
All right. Play of the game. What was yours, Reed?
Okay, so mine, I just kind of set it up unknowingly. So Tennessee comes out kind of flat, 3 and out, punts. Kentucky gets the ball, moves down the field, Vols get the ball back. 2nd and 19, thanks to a holding penalty, play breaks down. Joe Milton's flushed out of the pocket, hits Thornton, who has not been able to catch a cold all year, with a laser that ends up going for 47 yards. So that kind of flips the whole drive. Tennessee gets the ball inside the 10, probably should have scored a touchdown, ended up getting a field goal. But for me, that was the biggest play because I thought they have to get points on this drive or they can get down. I don't know if Tennessee never trailed. Not sure if they trailed, if they could come back in that scenario. And that made it a 2-score game in the second half for the first time. And I think that just sort of set the tone for the rest of the game that Tennessee was in control. So you had ad-libbing from Joe, a great throw on the run. Thornton, who starting outside looked like the receiver you mentioned that we hoped we'd seen all year. Could be huge moving forward for that receiving core that's banged up and needing some playmakers. So that for me was the play of the game.
I love that pick. Now I'm regretting the one I chose. Kind of wishing I'd chosen that one. Rustin, what about you? What was your play of the game?
4 minutes left. 2nd and 5. We throw a little flare screen to Dylan Sampson. I can't remember who. Somebody whiffed, missed their block. Guy gets through and hits him at the line of scrimmage. Should have been dropped for even maybe a 1-yard loss. And somehow he slips out of that guy, sprints forward, lunges, and gets the first down and resets a fresh set of downs with under 4 minutes left. If he does not get out of that tackle, it's now 3rd and 6. We've struggled with those intermediate throws. We probably can't run the ball there to keep the clock running. We probably have to try to throw it to get a first down. We don't have a big possession receiver. Still trying to find that guy. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an enormous play. We bleed out the rest of the clock, game over. That in my mind, that was the biggest down of the whole game.
It was certainly the Dylan Sampson show in the fourth quarter, no doubt about it.
He made some huge plays, and that was one of them. I remember that. I thought, oh no, and then yeah, he's another example of. I'm not faulting Tennessee's O-line. I don't think they had a great game, honestly, for a team to rush 250 yards yesterday. Those running backs made people miss, made some great decisions, and just really balled out.
Yep.
Totally agree. So my play of the game was also from the fourth quarter. It was also Dylan Sampson, but it was a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter. Kentucky had just scored. It was a 1-score game again. Tennessee takes the ball, first play of the possession. Dylan Sampson just gets lit up by a guy in the backfield. Really, it should have been a loss of 1 yard, but for some reason they spotted it at the line of scrimmage. It was like beneficial to us, which is kind of weird. But he gets hit, and then another dude comes up and hits him after the whistle and knocks him back a little bit, which I was like, that could have been called, but it didn't get called. So it's second and a very long 10. It's really second and 11. Next play, they throw a shovel pass to Dylan Sampson. And he just gets hit again behind the line of scrimmage, bounces off the Walker kid, takes off up the left sideline, and gets a first down out of the play. And all of a sudden, what looked to have been potentially 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 13, we now have a first down. And we end up going down and score. I mean, it was a huge, huge momentum swing. That was my play of the game. Tremendous credit to Dylan Sampson for bouncing off that first hit and picking up probably 13, 14 yards after that. So tremendous fourth quarter by Dylan Sampson. And that leads us into our player of the game. Reed, who was your player of the game?
All right, I'm going not who you think I would go. I think maybe you could go Wright, you could go Sampson, you could go Milton, but I'm going Big Charles Campbell, Tennessee's special teams
That's
star.
what I'm talking about.
Leg might fall off the way this Red Zone offense is. 4-4 on field goals, had a season-long 49-yarder, scored 15 points for Tennessee, had the doink that went in. But him being solid, he's 15-17 on the year. His only misses have come 50 plus. Has been huge for this team with not as much margin for error on offense. And I think you saw that yesterday, his ability to make those kicks, and Kentucky's kicker missing his first kick of the year really did flip kind of the script of the game. It gave Tennessee a lot more margin for error. And so I'm going Big Charles Campbell, place kicker for Tennessee, scored 15 points for the Vols, and on the road was ice cold.
I love it. That's a great pick. I love that. He deserves it too. I mean,
kickers are football players too.
Hey, if he misses any of those, it's a whole different game. Different game.
Right.
Who's your player of the game?
So I'm going to give an honorable mention to Cooper Mays. It is really hard. We've talked about it before. The center calls the block schemes in this offense. It's really hard to call a block scheme when you're not sure who the two guys are lining up to the left of you. And we kind of had a lot of revolving doors on the offensive line, and Cooper made good calls, got people where they needed to be, got people lined up. Kudos to him. A lot of that 250 yards, I guarantee if you watch it back, it's going to be because Cooper made the right call. So I give him an honorable mention, but I go back to what Reed was saying at the beginning. The man averaged 11 yards a carry on the road in the SEC against the number 2 rushing defense in the conference. I mean, I don't know how you pick anybody but Jalen Wright. And I'm kind of like Reed. I kind of wish he had gotten more touches. The kid was just plowing people. He needed the ball.
To your point about Cooper Mays, if you go back and watch in the fourth quarter, there was a stop and play. I think maybe it was an injury for Kentucky. I can't remember for sure. But
injury.
Yeah, probably. It's probably one of those. You're right. They zoom in on the Tennessee sideline, and legally, this wasn't Michigan there. It was legal. And so they zoom in on Tennessee sideline, and Glenn Ellerby's talking to the whole offense. And as soon as he finishes, Josh Heupel comes walking up and talks directly to Cooper. I mean, like, Joe's standing right here too. Like, he's standing and he does like this so nobody can steal us and talks directly to Cooper, telling him what he wants him to do. And then you see Cooper nod like this. And then he said something to Joe. I mean, like, the first person he went to was Cooper Mays and told him what he wanted him to do in this situation. Their trust for Cooper is through the roof, and understandably so. And he's tremendous asset.
Well, to your point, there are two guys, like the one game Tennessee has been outrushed this year was at Florida, and who didn't play.
Correct. And I to this day will say,
point.
I still 100% believe if Cooper Mays plays in that game, we win that game. I think we were in total disarray on the line, and if those guys had been even slightly organized, we would have won that game.
So my player of the game, I think this might be the first time this whole year I've done this, but I'm actually going to give co-players of the game because I'm taking a cop out here. And first half, Jalen Wright, player of the game. Second half, Dylan Sampson, player of the game. We could even break it down by quarter. First quarter, Jalen Wright, player of the game. Fourth quarter, Dylan Sampson, player of the game. I mean, those two guys dominated each of those quarters. I have not gone back to look to see what time of possession was in the first quarter. I'm pretty sure we won time of possession in the fourth quarter because of Dylan Sampson. But Jalen, I'm sure, got us tremendous amounts of possession in the first quarter, which is weird for Tennessee's offense that they would ever have more possession time because they go so fast. But I mean, that first touchdown by Jalen Wright set the tone. I mean, that set the tone for the game. Huge deal. So those were my players of the game. I'm breaking my own rule there and giving it to two people.
Well, that was my honorable mention for play of the game was his touchdown run. That 52-yarder, beautiful run. Again, contacted, if not in the backfield, then in the first 3 or 4 yards. And he just made that happen. And I think that set the tone for the game of, hey, this actually is Tennessee versus Kentucky. And Tennessee's got a big boy football, their little brother in Lexington. And he was dynamic. You take that 52-yarder away, he still averaged 7 yards a carry. I mean, he wasn't a one-run pony in that game. He was electric and he was dynamic. So I think those are all great picks and great points.
It's fun to talk about this, and we can talk about Tennessee dominating the run game. That makes this fun.
That's the thing, guys, like last year for all the talk about the record-setting offense, which was obviously exciting and maybe just newsflash may have spoiled everybody a little bit.
Surely not.
But if you look back at the big wins at LSU, they dominated the line of scrimmage. They won the line of scrimmage against Florida. They won the line of scrimmage against Alabama. It's not just the high flying deep throws and the bombs and the pace. It's winning at the point of attack in the trenches. That's what they were able to do last year. If you really look at it, they lost a lot of talent off that line, but you're seeing this team, like I said, kind of find their identity, and I think that's a good thing headed into a couple of really tough games.
And I think that's a really good point because at this point in the year, they're still in the hunt. This upcoming Saturday, all of Tennessee fans will be the biggest Missouri fans in the world. And then next Saturday, we will all be not the biggest Missouri fans in the world. And we got Missouri needs to beat Georgia or Ole Miss, one of the two. Doesn't matter, either one. And we have to beat Georgia. Florida's out. They're done. They can't get in the SEC championship game now. But we have to win out. If we win out, we give ourselves a shot. And we have to really, really root for Missouri and Ole Miss. Let's look at some of these comments. So I'm a little behind on the comments. 9:04 is the time that this first one came through that I'm about to show. Let's see here. Brennan, welcome, Brennan. Good to see you, buddy. He said, player of the game, no question, Dylan Sampson. Agree with that. Absolutely. It's nice when you can have a lot of different people you can choose. Absolutely. Doug, welcome, Doug. He said that last drive was awesome. Now that's the way you close out a game. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Zach said everyone hyped up Ray Davis, but we're that good. Right? We shut him down. Doug said, glad to see Elijah Herring step up. He had a good game yesterday. Let's see. Zach said, I'm not a Talking Vols fan, but they do have a shirt called Kentucky's Daddy. That's pretty good. Ooh, the only 10 okay, y'all tell me your thoughts on this one. The only 10 you see makes a really good point here. She said, my takeaway is Joe's comfortably running. It makes a big difference. What do y'all think? How big of a difference is it now that Joe is running the ball consistently?
Well, I thought you had, there's two aspects to that, and that's a great point. That was missing the first part of the year, and then he hurt his knee, and I think that kind of did slow him down a couple of games. You saw more of him running as a design, which I like, and you saw more of him ad-libbing with his legs, which I also like. And only good things happened when Saturday when he took off, either on his own accord or took off and threw it to the receiver. Actually an honorable mention for my play of the game was his run and slide inbounds on that last drive.
Yes.
What a heads-up play by him to get the first down. And if you watch that play, I think it was Sampson missed his block. Joe just kind of ran around that guy and got the first down, slid inbounds. Super heads-up play, very athletic play from him. It wasn't just straight line speed. He was elusive. It's been huge for Tennessee's offense. It's added an element to an offense that was stagnant and stale. And it's a great point. And that was probably was his best game since the Orange Bowl last year.
Doug's agreed. He said Joe is so much better when he runs the ball. I think he feels more comfortable in the flow of the game. I agree. Kevin, welcome, Kevin. Good to have you, buddy. He said, how did Kentucky hold out our D-line from getting to the quarterback yesterday? Well, I think it's because they held our D-line.
Was that fourth word in the quote.
Yeah. A lot of holding, but I agree with you. They were not able to get, even in spite of that, they were not able to get to the quarterback the way that we had seen them.
Some of that, Kevin, Kentucky they decided to just a lot of max protect. We're going to try to give Leary time to throw, which is weird because he's been awful all year. But it worked. They schemed to try to stop Tennessee's and just slow developing passes down the field, betting that Tennessee's kind of banged up secondary couldn't cover their receivers. And it worked. It was a good strategy, good game plan. Probably not something I saw coming anyway. Yeah. So I think that was some of it. Some of the credit goes to Kentucky there for sure.
Oreo Puppy Dog said Leary threw for too many yards because we didn't pressure him enough. Agreed. I mean, you're not getting to the quarterback. He's going to throw it for more yards. Absolutely. No doubt. Kevin, that's a good question. I like this question. This is a great question, Kevin. He said, is the difference between Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton their speed? My answer would be the difference is Hooker's elusiveness. Joe doesn't have the wiggle that Hendon had. What do y'all think?
Hooker reminds me of Dobbs.
Ooh, yes.
His running. Dobbs has some good straight line speed, but he was very elusive in between the hashes. And Joe is better when he gets outside and can kind of take off, in my opinion.
Yep.
I remember when Josh Dobbs was a true freshman. Kurt Magid was being asked in a post-practice interview which quarterback is the most difficult to defend. And he said Josh Dobbs. I mean, Josh Dobbs was a true freshman. So you remember you had Justin Worley there at that time. You had Ferguson there at the time. And he said Josh Dobbs because he said he's like a wet noodle. You can't tackle him. And then we saw that come to fruition in the years to come. Let's see. Kevin said, I just don't know if that Joe has that same tempo unless he runs more. Certainly puts him in the flow of the game, no doubt about it. Just a man in Michigan, welcome. He said, Joe hit the deep ball 2 weeks in a row. That's right.
He was very accurate yesterday. If you mentioned Bill Martin on Twitter, pointed out it was the highest completion percentage for a Tennessee quarterback with 20 attempts since Dobbs set the school record in 2016. So it was 21 of 23, I believe, just off the top of my head. Super accurate with the football and made some, if we talk about some tie windows, some ridiculous throws. And that was also a great call. Great to see Nimrod. When I saw how open he was, I thought that receiver or that the DB had to fall down. And sure enough, but he was beat before he fell down. Yeah, that's why he fell down. And great throw by Joe to put enough air under it, and that catch was never, or that throw was never in doubt. It was on target.
Absolutely. Rustin, earlier when Oreo Puppy Dog asked about getting Joe's numbers up, he was saying for Joe's draft stock. So appreciate you clarifying that.
Sure.
Let's see.
NFL scouts don't care about numbers. It's totally about the combine.
I like Tony's attitude here. Go ahead, Reed.
And Rustin, to piggyback on that, I don't know that any coaches who really think like that. I don't. Those guys are so laser focused on winning a football game. And that's just everyone that I've met and everyone that I've been around at UT football or basketball has been that way. They're not thinking about all the stuff that fans think about or media thinks
Right.
about, really. They're just not. That's not on their radar.
Right.
Tony's he's fed up. He said Heupel should call the refs out. He makes $9 million. He can afford the fine.
I think the problem is I think he has called them out privately, and I think that's why we're running into some issues.
I'm sure that I would imagine if I mean, this is not information, this is speculation. So understand that. But you see all the injuries, quote unquote, that stop Tennessee's tempo, and you can call it, you can see it coming. Every time when I'm at a game, it's 2 to 3 plays, tempo, somebody goes down. Usually on the third play. And you can count it next game. It'll be that way. And I'm sure that that's been a big point of contention for him and trying to get that rule changed and all of that, in addition to some of the other calls that we've seen go against Tennessee. But I'm sure that that's just a constant point of, hey, this is something we uniquely do as a coaching staff. And the league's inability or the NCAA's inability or unwillingness to legislate the other team illegally, if they would make a rule stopping that, is, I'm sure, frustrating to him and has probably not helped his cause.
We do it too, though. I mean, everybody in the country does it.
You have to now, like but it would definitely benefit Tennessee for the NCAA to make a rule to mitigate that more than it hurts Tennessee and allows Tennessee's defense to, it'd be a net positive for the SEC or the NCAA to fix that, and it's got to be fixed. It obviously, just from an entertainment perspective, it hurts the product, right? We all know what's going on. They call it out on the broadcast now, which good for them finally for catching up.
Yeah, I was really shocked when Jesse Palmer said, "And the Academy Award goes to," and they show the dude just lay down on the ground. And I think that was in the second half is when that one happened. I was shocked that he said it, but I was like, kudos to him for saying it, man. So Reed, let me get your.
It hasn't happened as much this year as last year, but we have a predetermined lay down. Anytime we score fast, one of the offensive linemen, go back and look at every time this year we've scored fast, and go back and look at last year every time we scored fast. On the ensuing extra point, there's always an offensive lineman that gets injured every single time. And it's because we scored too fast. We need to give the defense a little more time to rest.
I'll give them 1 more minute.
Yeah,
whatever it takes, 2 minutes.
It's predetermined. If we score too fast, there will absolutely be an offensive lineman get injured on the extra point every time.
So Reed, let me get your opinion on this and see what you think about it. So, a lot of people have said the way you fix that fake injury thing is if somebody gets hurt, then they're not allowed to re-enter the game the rest of that possession. Do you think that's a good rule to implement?
I do. I mean, I do think that would help mitigate it. The NCAA instituting a rule that has that much complexity is have a low confidence value in them actually doing something like that. Yep. just honestly, because I've never seen them handle anything with any complexity the right way. So I don't have a lot of hope that it's going to get fixed in that way. Maybe it's going to be I don't know how else you can address it, because you can't flag them in case they're actually hurt, especially in this era of player safety.
Yeah,
you cannot throw a flag on them for unsportsmanlike conduct or anything. So it has to be some kind of substitution. But then, you're going to have teams still like throw the scrub in there and have him go down, and it's still going to be an issue. And it's just going to have to be something that Tennessee deals with.
I think it's a good point. Let's see. Doug said, good to see them throwing the ball to Sampson. Yep, totally agree. Guy's dynamic. He's electric with the ball in his hands. Let's see here. Jared, welcome, Jared. Good to see you. I saw Jared tonight. He said he'd be watching. I appreciate it, Jared. He said, I was excited that Thornton finally caught some passes and looked like I thought he would this year. Absolutely. We have been waiting to see that for sure. Vols time. Welcome, Vols time. He said Milton finally balled out. Let's see. He said Tennessee needs to get their tight ends more involved. That's interesting. I don't think Jacob Warren or McAllen Castles, either one had a catch last night.
Not that I remember, no.
I think that's a good point. Oh, Mr. Jones, welcome, buddy. He's agreeing with Reed. He said the field goal kicker won the game.
That's right, Big Charles Campbell.
Absolutely. The only Tennessee said, I think loyalty is both a strength and a weakness of Heupel. It's why the players trust and love him, but it's also why we suffer in some key positions. So that'd be a topic for a whole show. Like we can talk about that one. Mr. Jones said, Thornton, where have you been all season? Absolutely. We enjoyed having that. Let's see. The only Tennessee said, how was that Keaton catch a catch? I don't understand what they saw in the replay. That's a good question.
I think they had like those 1990s standard def cameras out there because I don't think there was enough evidence to overturn it because you couldn't tell me that his foot was off the ground, even though it looked like his foot was off the ground.
Yep. I would think that was a perfect example of we benefited from it being called a catch on the field. And they didn't have enough evidence to overturn it. Although I was concerned they were going to say he was still bobbling the ball when he was out of bounds. That was my concern.
And that was still kind of hard to see with the angles that they had. But also, guys, have you ever seen a play stopped when the play is almost over to review the previous play?
Yes. What in the world? I totally agree.
I've never seen that. They snapped the ball. The whistle was about to blow on the play, a 5-yard run, which they negated. And they blew it dead to review a play after the ball snapped.
You're right. I mean, literally, the running back was past the line of scrimmage.
He was
with
being
the ball
tackled
in his hand.
The play was almost over.
Yeah. And they blow the whistle. It was crazy. I mean, I totally agree. And they said, they called it in before the snap. Like, no, what in the world did he do?
There's no, I've never seen one get called in that quick. But it ended up not affecting the drive of the game, fortunately for Tennessee.
Let's see, Mr. Jones, he's still bragging on that kicker. He said he played the game. He made every stinking field goal. We needed every one of them. That's true. We did. Now, I don't want to brag or anything here, but on Thursday night on our preview show, I may or may not have predicted Tennessee to win 34-24.
Okay.
It's pretty close. That was pretty close. 31 point off for Tennessee and 3 points off for Kentucky. Yeah, that was pretty close. Let's see here. Zach said,
what was my prediction?
You said 31-27. Is that what you said?
That would be it.
Okay.
That's pretty close too.
Boys did pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit. Yeah, you got a Kentucky score on it, didn't you? And you're only 2 points off for Tennessee. That was good.
Yeah, look at you guys.
Let's see. Zach said on that Joe run where he slid inbounds, Squirrel White missed his block. Yeah, poor Squirrel got lit up on that play.
He did.
He's just not a big human being, you know.
That's true. That is true.
And everybody out there knows it. So when they get their opportunities, they're gonna make sure he knows it.
Yeah.
I mean, man, oh man, he just got annihilated. I was concerned like he got injured. I hope he didn't, but he got hit hard. That's true. Just a man in Michigan said his play of the game was Joe checking it down to a wide open Dylan Sampson on 3rd and 10 on the final drive. I think that's a great choice as well.
Kudos to Josh Heupel. So that was not. I mean, yes, it's technically a check down, but that was a called route. He ran an angle route. And, typically our backs don't run a whole lot of angle routes. That was a very specific call. Josh Heupel knew what Kentucky was going to do defensively. He knew there'd be space vacated for Dylan Sampson right there. And that was a designed call for Dylan Sampson. Joe was never going to throw the ball down the field. He was looking off the safety so he could come to Dylan Sampson on the angle. It was a really good call.
I have that space there. And that's one of the things too. I think Tennessee has missed some calls in key spots. Heupel's missed some calls in key spots this year. They've not executed in key spots this year. Red zone execution still needs to improve. But yesterday, the calls were there in the big moments. The execution was there in the big moments. When the plays broke down, the guys made plays. Tennessee had an answer. They kept taking hits from Kentucky, kept taking hits and kept answering, both the coaching staff and the team. And that's how you get a road win in the SEC. You gotta really be pretty daggum good against anybody in this league right now to get to win at their place.
So Tony has asked a very good question, and I do not know the answer. But I'm curious because apparently I misunderstood what was going on during the game. But he said, "What's with the stupid smoke show? Couldn't hardly see the field." Okay, so I thought it was fog. Apparently I was wrong. Apparently it was actual smoke from something that was released in the stadium. What happened? I don't know what happened.
They showed at one point a wide angle. They had smoke machines in there, and they would shoot them off every time anything positive happened, and it all just like it wasn't leaving; it was just staying in the stadium. And so it just created a crazy haze everywhere.
You couldn't see the field there on a few of the TV shots, really, which I thought was I've never seen that in a football game unless it's snowing. I've never seen that artificially, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, Kentucky hits that deep ball to the sideline through the fog or smoke or whatever. And I was like, man, that was an impressive catch just because the dude could see the ball.
It didn't look like he would have had a good view at it from the angle the TV camera was.
Yep. I mean, I don't know that was bizarre. I've never seen that. That was wild. Let's see. Mr. Jones said Joe Milton's throw to Keaton on the sideline was a huge play. Absolutely, it was. Zach said the fake injury to end the game was the play of the game.
It kind of was.
That was the most Kentucky. The two most Kentucky plays of that game for me, if you can indulge me, were that one for sure, because I mean that's a hilarious final nail in your coffin, right?
Yes.
I faked being hurt, and that was the end of the game. That was incredible. And then their quarterback sneak on 3rd and 1, there where was one of the worst quarterback sneaks I've ever seen. The quarterback got the ball, took a couple steps back, and then just got swamped by Tennessee's defensive front, which defeats the purpose of the quarterback sneak. You might as well hand it off to your running back in that scenario. And then they went for it on 4th down. Tennessee stopped him, partially because he somehow lost yardage on a quarterback sneak, which takes some special incompetence. So there were some very Kentucky
He went
plays.
to the Garantano school of sneaking.
Yeah, at least I guess he didn't fumble if you're a Kentucky fan, but yeah, he went to the school for quarterbacks who can't sneak good.
Yeah.
One of the most humorous things, and it sounds mean, I get that, but it was humorous. Watching the officials explain the 10-second runoff to Stoops on the sideline at the end of the game, you can see on his face when he realizes what this means that they're explaining to him, and he's just like, oh man. I mean, like, you can just see the moment it dawns on him, and I felt bad for the guy, but
I didn't.
Not really.
Russian is cold-blooded.
He's going to finish 7-5. They're going to give him a $20 million bonus and a 10-year extension. It's, he's good.
Tony,
that was wild. That was a wild ending for sure. Didn't have that on my bingo card for the Kentucky game.
Yeah, for real. Tony agrees with Reed. He said Charles Campbell had a great game. Let's see. Justin Man in Michigan also said that about the 3rd and 10 check down was his play of the game. Volstime said his player of the game was Joe Milton. Absolutely. Joe certainly deserves it. Absolutely.
They had a couple of big plays yesterday on 2nd and long, 3rd and long that you really haven't seen so much this year. And some of those were good calls, like you mentioned, Rustin. A couple of them were Joe just making plays and the chemistry with the receivers. So that was an encouraging sign, I think, for the offense as a whole. Is they did have some of those big hitter explosive plays, not just on first down, but when they really needed one, and the defense was keying on those as well.
Let's see. Zach, honorable mention was Thornton. He showed up, but his player of the game was Amari Thomas. The only thing you see said Amari is a good choice.
Bryson Easton had a big game too. Bryson Easton played really well.
Somebody that you mentioned, Rustin, I wanted to say, because we talked after the Florida game, womp womp. But Tennessee secondary obviously had a rough game, but you said Judy Lawley needs to get a lot more snaps after rewatching that game, and he was very good against Kentucky. I think it was their highest rated defensive back, and great. I mean, made some tackles. One of the guys that didn't give up some big plays, and has really been an asset to that secondary.
Yeah, he's played well all year. You hate to see Kamal Hadden get injured, but if that means that Gabe Jeudy-Lally plays more, okay. I mean, I think he's a fantastic defensive back.
No, you called it after that Florida game, and it's definitely been true. So it had another great game yesterday.
Best part about Gabe Jeudy-Lally is he tackles people. He wraps them up and tackles them. That's the best part of his game. He's a great open field tackler.
He's a really good cover guy too, though. Like you don't typically see him lose his man. He may get beat every once in a while, and that's normal for a cover corner, but he typically has really good technique, and he's typically where he's supposed to be.
Let's see. Tony said, "Hey, Rustin, I agree with you about Tamari McDonald. What's your thoughts on our safety play? I've never thought much about Jalen McCullough, but Wesley Walker had a bad game too. So I'd say Tank McCullough had a good game yesterday."
I actually didn't think Wesley Walker played that poorly. Wesley Walker led us in tackles yesterday. He had 9. I think Wesley Walker was spending a lot of time making up for Tamarion McDonald, if I'm being honest. I think I'm just being real here. Tamarion McDonald was out there playing man quite a bit, and Wesley Walker was ended up having to tackle the guy after he caught the ball because Tamarion didn't cover him. You never want one of your safeties to lead you in tackles. It usually means bad things. But I think a lot of it was a symptom of Tamarion McDonald just can't cover people. Like it's not his skill set.
Let's see. Doug says, "Good to see us playing physical football. Absolutely winning line of scrimmage. Absolutely." Just like Reed said, that's still where the game's played. I mean, football's still football, no matter if you're trying to spread them out or not. You got to win one-on-one battles in the line of scrimmage.
If you can hand it off and score, that's the best. I mean, the lowest percentage of bad things will happen on that play. Like the least amount of things will go wrong on a handoff. And I think that's the thing that maybe coaches overthink. And that's one of the things Tennessee's done really well, and Heupel's offense structurally does really well is, hey, let's just keep positive plays moving forward. Tennessee did get behind the sticks, usually from penalties against Kentucky, but largely because of their rushing attack, they've been able to stay ahead of the sticks. Did a good job of that against A&M as well, except for the penalties. But that rushing attack really helps what is not the explosive offense that we've seen under Heupel still be able to be productive. Vols they're 4th in the SEC in total offense, 4th in total defense right now. Balanced team.
I'm sure he's saving it for Missouri or Georgia, but the one thing we haven't seen yet this year is a 2-back. We haven't seen both Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, or both Dylan Sampson and Jalen Wright on the field at the same time. That's what I want to see. I want to see those guys are all so good. We need to find ways to get them on the field together, because that's a defensive coordinator's nightmare. Trying to figure out how you're going to stop all those guys. I mean, somebody's going to get loose.
The only 10 you see said, "Shout out to our defensive line for stopping the run." Absolutely. Totally agree. Let's see.
They've been great at that all year, really, for as good as they are at pressuring the quarterback, which is sort of what you hear about. They've stopped the run. That's been their MO.
Absolutely. Brent, welcome, Brent. Good to have you, buddy. He said, just rewatched the fourth quarter. Man, Dylan Sampson was the best player on the field. All the fourth quarter, it was his game. True. Absolutely. Brent, great question, Brent. Okay, Reed, I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. Confidence level that we went out and Georgia drops the second game without Bowers. So that means now, okay, now
there's an assumption in that question.
they're assuming we beat Georgia, and the question is essentially, is Missouri or Ole Miss going to beat Georgia? Which, I mean, both formidable teams. Unfortunately, Missouri is at Georgia, so that stinks. But I think Georgia goes to Ole Miss, which, I mean, it's fought Hemingway, so it doesn't really matter. But what do y'all think? Reed, what's your opinion on this question? Confidence level that we went out and Georgia drops the second game.
Georgia is not the team that they've been. They're not. They're very good. They're not the team that we've seen. But they've also won, 25 straight football games or something?
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Who's going to be the team to beat them? Somebody needs to. It would be nice for it to be Tennessee, to be the first one there, but it's going to be hard to see Georgia lose in 2 games. It just is. Crazier things have happened, though. You gotta beat them first, and that's where, for me, Tennessee. We talked about this on the preseason show, guys. As far as season expectations, Vols got to get one of 2 at Missouri, at home versus Georgia. They got to win. They can't go 0-2 in those games. They need to win one of those. That doesn't. Now, if they lose one, they're out for the East. If they go 2-0, they got a shot. But I think just from a season trajectory, they got to win at least one of those. But Georgia's, they're probably going to get beat on the road. So I don't really give Missouri a huge chance to beat them there in Athens. But, this Tennessee team's a little different than last year's. There's a shot. There's a shot there, and then who knows?
Rustin, what's your confidence level?
I mean, if I put a percentage on it, it's a very low percent.
Yeah. Yes. I would say maybe 1-2%. I mean, after watching Georgia this weekend, and I thought that was the litmus test. Brock Bowers has been the security blanket. They've relied on him. He's been Carson Beck's go-to. Somebody kind of hinted, what if Georgia's better without him? And don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying they're better without him, but they're a whole lot more diverse without him. And they spread the ball around. I mean, Carson Beck goes out there and throws for over 300 yards to 8 different receivers. Made Florida just look terrible. And then Dijon Edwards has kind of risen to the top. He had almost 100 yards rushing. My concern with Georgia is I just don't know that we can stop everything. They
Right.
just have so many different things they can go to. And it's if we're gonna beat them, it's gonna have to be our defensive line's gonna have to have their best game of the year. They're gonna have to get to the quarterback with 4. They're gonna have to try to stop the run with 5, because we're gonna have to drop a ton of guys in coverage. And if they can't get to Carson Beck and create a turnover or 2, I saw a stat the other day that I'm going to now track because I think it's fascinating. Under Kirby Smart, anytime Georgia scores 30 points, they are now 64-1.
Not bad.
64-1 when they score 30 or more. So we know what the magic number is.
Right.
Well, I totally agree with Reed in that it's hard to imagine Georgia losing at home. So that kind of eliminates Missouri from it. I wish they were playing at Missouri, because I think that would be a much more difficult situation. Unfortunately,
last year they kind of laid an egg at Missouri. Was that last year?
Sure did.
And Missouri almost had them beat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Missouri was leading literally the entire game. Georgia took their first lead of the game with less than 3 minutes left in the game.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are the ones that have to go to Missouri this year, which isn't good. But honestly, and I'm not saying this because I got orange glasses on, which I'm sure I do. But of the games left for Georgia, I think Tennessee is probably their toughest matchup because it's in Neyland, and Carson Beck has never taken a snap in Neyland, and that's going to be different for him. That the volume level there, that will be different, and so I wish
Vols haven't lost in a while in Neyland, so yeah,
that's
it's going to
true.
be an environment for sure.
If Tennessee can, I think they've scored on 6 of 8 opening possessions of the game
drives.
this year. So if they can do that and they can get out to a lead, it gets the crowd into it, and all of a sudden, of course, the crowd's going to be into it anyway. But now the crowd's really loud, and Carson Beck's trying to run the offense in a place he's never run the offense before, with a volume level that he's never been surrounded by. That could at least potentially buy Tennessee a couple possessions if they can score once or twice in the first quarter. They got a shot.
You're going to need a defensive touchdown, special teams touchdown, something like that. You're going to have to win the turnover battle, probably about 2. It's going to have to be one of those games where everything clicks for Tennessee, which we haven't seen this year yet. Tennessee's due for one of those games where everything goes right. And it's going to have to be one of those, and where some things go wrong for Georgia uncharacteristically.
Which, historically, we've seen that happen against Georgia in Neyland. Jalen Reeves-Maben, or as Vern Lundquist would call him, Jalen Meeves-Rabin. Yeah, there we go. That blocked punt several years ago that ended up being a touchdown. I think of Trevor Daniels' punt that was, to this day, the best punt I've ever seen in my life, that rolled out of bounds inside the 1-yard line. Took a 90-degree turn almost, Yeah. I mean, so we've seen crazy stuff happen. But I agree, it is difficult to see Georgia losing 2 games, especially with how well they played without Brock Bowers this week. This week was not encouraging on that front if you're a Tennessee fan.
No. But also, I don't think Tennessee could cover Bowers with anybody they have on the field. So, I guess we'll see.
Let's see. I'm going to Carl, he's asking about, I hadn't checked the pick'ems yet, Carl. Welcome, Carl. So Carl, Reed, just so you know, Carl has been leading our college football pick'em challenge all year long until this past week, when a certain Volbro took the top of the leaderboard, who shall remain nameless. And so but Reed or Carl has been doing fantastic, and I haven't tallied up today's scores yet. But we're at 10-15, and I try to, and Reed's been good to us. He's not said anything, but I try to when we have guests on to cut it at an hour to respect their time. Reed, he's been a good sport. He's gone with us, but
I've enjoyed it, boys.
We so appreciate you, Reed. All the comments that came through that I haven't gotten to yet, I apologize. It's just fun talking about this stuff. Okay, one last question, because this is good. I saw this earlier, and I wanted us to talk about this. Chad, welcome, Chad. Good to have you with us. He said, how can we shore up these red zone issues? Field goals definitely won't cut it against Missouri and Georgia. And I totally agree. They won't cut, especially at Missouri. We have to have touchdowns there. Well, and against Georgia. So what do y'all think? How can we shore up some of these red zone issues? Thursday night, I'll give this as background. Thursday night, we were asked this almost exact question. And I said I would love for us to see some of that, sprint option that we saw a couple times throughout the season, and they ran it 3 times last night, which was awesome. That was good to see. Make people stay honest on them. What do y'all think?
Have you all ever seen the cinema classic Happy Gilmore? When he learns that he can just hit it into the hole from the tee. So the answer is don't get in the red zone. Just score from 30 yards out.
Let Joe throw it.
Yeah, we need some more 52-yard touchdown runs and 39-yard bombs to Zimrod. So no, I mean, I do think maybe taking
Sounds
some
good
more
to me.
shots would be good. I do think Tennessee. I'm not sold on. I've watched Missouri a couple times this year. Not sold on their defense's ability to be a juggernaut that stops Tennessee's offense. So I do think maybe a few more deep shots. But that was one of my takeaways too. I didn't get to because I didn't want to be a downer. But Tennessee's red zone offense has to be better. Missouri has the top red zone offense in the SEC, I do believe. So this could be a very tough matchup for Tennessee, especially on the road where they've kind of melted down. But one of the things, Chad, I would say, and what I noticed watching Tennessee yesterday was when Tennessee slows down, they bog down. When they try to take their time, they have false starts, penalties, miscommunications with receivers. So I think keep that tempo going into the red zone as much as you can. And maybe, honestly, because they haven't been doing that this year, would take a team by surprise a little bit as well. So I would like to see him go more tempo and take more shots. Happy Gilmore, go faster.
Yeah. We talked about the tempo thing a couple weeks ago. It is mind-boggling why at times we slow down when we seem to have so much success when we go fast. And, I like tempo in the red zone because you force defenses to stay on the field. You force them to stay in what they were in, so you know what they're going to be in. And sometimes you can steal yards.
Right.
I think one thing we can do that kind of goes to what we did last night, and it's the reason none of the tight ends had a catch. When the offensive line started having injury issues, we started keeping tight ends in as extra blockers, and they became pullers and lead blockers, and that's why we ran for 250 yards, because we had typically somebody big leading. At the goal line, I'd like to see a lot of that, where we're going tempo, but we're also using the tight ends as extra blockers, forcing people into being in a certain formation and attacking it with an extra guy. One thing we can do that we haven't done this year, because we don't have a big possession receiver. We just don't. But the one thing we can do that we haven't shown, and I hope we're saving it for Missouri or Georgia, is bring every single offensive player into the box except one, and put Ramel Keaton out there on an island on a corner while the other 10 guys are in the box with us, and let's just go play one-on-one. Or put Squirrel White out there. Let's just go play one-on-one and see who can go win. That's one way you can create a one-on-one isolation without having to have a big play receiver. You can just force one guy to make a miss.
I like that.
Tony let us know that Ole Miss is at Georgia, not Ole Miss. So,
okay.
That's not good. That's not good. Let's see. The only 10 you see had a good point about red zone issues. She said, I think we have to reduce red zone penalties, first of all, because it's killing us. And I think that's a great point.
I think that goes with tempo as well, too. They got too much time to think. They're rhythm offense.
Right.
They're it's like the Showtime Lakers or something. Like they got to be running and gunning.
I agree totally. And you're right, because, we get down there and it's first and goal from the 6, and all of a sudden it's first and goal from the 16. It kills you. Absolutely. Eric said, it's great to be Kentucky's daddy. Absolutely. 36 out of 39 times. Kevin said, great show. Appreciate you, Kevin, so much, man. And I'm going to put this one up here because I agree. Wouldn't you all agree that Tennessee's winning culture has been restored? We used to lose every single close game. Now we just gut them out like the former teams used to do. Totally agree. We expect to win now, and that is a nice thing. We don't hope
17-4 in the last 21 games. Tennessee.
That is the perfect way.
17-4. Pretty daggum good.
Yep.
Absolutely. How nice is it to say that? Well, we so appreciate everybody joining us. This has been a lot of fun. Reed, you were the man. Thank you so much. Hang on just for a minute after we go not live anymore. I got something to tell you. So we appreciate everybody so much. Look at that Reed shirt. Isn't that a great shirt? Man, that's just the fantastic shirt. Honorary bro. So we seriously, man, we Reed, you are the man. We so appreciate you joining us each month. It's a treat for us. We really respect you and appreciate your insight. And so we certainly thank you. And to everybody who commented and all the ones I didn't get to, I'm sorry. But it is so much fun getting to talk with you all, to see the same people coming back and new people. It's really exciting. So we appreciate everybody. Follow Danny White's advice. Text a buddy about the Vol Bros. Let him know that we got some good stuff going on over here. And we hope to see everybody this Thursday as we preview the mighty juggernaut of UConn. That'll be this Saturday. But we got a little something special for you coming on Wednesday, just as like a recap of the first year. It'll be a cool little thing. So we look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday night. Go Vols, baby.